Have you ever woken up in a cold sweat from a dream you literally created? It's wild, right? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going on this incredibly deep, structural journey. We're going to start right inside the intimate mechanics of your sleeping mind, and we're going to expand that exact same logic all the way out to the origins of the universe and the future of artificial intelligence. It sounds like a massive leap, I know, but stick with me, because by the end of this explainer, you'll see exactly how deeply connected they really are.
To unpack this massive unified model, we're going to use a Matryoshka doll approach. Zooming out layer by layer. We'll hit the physics of dreams, the layered subject, otherness and entropy, symbolic order and power, AI's silicon spacetime, and finally, wrap it all up with a unified cosmic loop. Let's just dive right in.
All right, Section 1, the physics of dreams. We are starting at the absolute foundational layer of our daily lives, the highly mechanical world of the mind.
So here is a question to chew on. If you are the one making your dreams, why are you ever surprised by them? Seriously, why do you jump when a monster pops out of nowhere? Or absolutely panic when you flip a test paper over and don't know the answers? This paradox is absolutely crucial. It totally shatters the illusion that you're just this single, unified creator. What it actually proves is a massive information asymmetry happening right inside your own head. The system generating the dream and the you experiencing the dream, not the same thing. They simply do not have access to the same information.
So how does a dream actually hold together? It is not about remembering what you did yesterday. In a dream, you rarely know how you got into the room or what you had for breakfast. But you absolutely know you need to escape, or you need to pass an exam, or you feel this crushing sense of shame. We call these life vectors. Think of them as compressed directional fields. All your desires, your social anxieties, and the roles you play bundled up. They act as your behavioral compass, even when your specific biographical history is completely stripped away. Your identity or job title might be gone, but the pure, concentrated feeling of running away, that remains fully intact. That is a life vector.
Let's break down how this actually works, step by step. A dream isn't a pre-recorded movie you just sit back and watch. It's a recursive simulation running on what we can call your concept memory network. During the day, random inputs modify your internal states. When you fall asleep, those emotional tensions set the initial conditions. Then, this concept memory network fires up. It's literally like a video game physics engine, but instead of calculating gravity or wind resistance, it calculates meaning and causality. It generates a whole environment, and then, this is the crazy part, it creates subject differentiation. It splits your psyche so you have other people to interact with, testing your responses in real time. And the kicker? That logical linear story you tell people the next morning? You actually reorganize that after you woke up, just your conscious mind trying to make chronological sense of overlapping, abstract events.
Moving up a layer, we hit Section 2, the layered subject. We've got to fundamentally rethink the very nature of who is actually experiencing this simulation. You aren't just a single point of consciousness floating around in a void. You are a highly layered system. You consist of physical, emotional, conceptual, linguistic, social, and historical layers, and each one operates like a totally distinct operating system. They possess relative independence with unique protocols and their own specific timelines. So, say you fail a major test. That is not just one isolated event. It triggers distinct, simultaneous state transitions across your layers. Your physical body literally tenses up. Your emotional layer is flooded with acute anxiety, and your social layer is frantically recalculating your status, all at the exact same time.
This is a brilliant way to upgrade Sigmund Freud's early maps of the psyche. You know Freud's ego, id, and superego? Under layered subject theory, those aren't just fuzzy psychological concepts. They are a structural map of independent executing protocols. Take dream symbols, for example. They're just us reverse engineering that hidden generation mechanism when we wake up. Or psychological symptoms, like a sudden panic attack or unexplained physical pain. They are just blockages in one layer that automatically execute in a different one. A social conflict that you simply cannot put into words bypasses the language layer entirely and expresses itself directly as a physical symptom. Catharsis, then, isn't just having a good cry. It's the active structural process of reverse translating a physical event back into your historical and linguistic narrative.
All right, zooming out from the individual mind, we arrive at Section 3, Otherness and Entropy. Let's look at the relational physics between these layers, specifically how they handle the unknown.
We need to completely redefine otherness. It's not just other people walking down the street. It is an absolute ontological boundary of existence. This means no subject, biological, social, AI, you name it, can ever get a perfect God's eye view of the whole system.
Because you're trapped by your layer's specific space-time limits, you have a massive fundamental blind spot. Anything outside that predictable boundary, the stuff you literally cannot process, absorb, or observe, is experienced as otherness.
And this totally throws traditional information theory out the window. Classical Shannon entropy treats information simply as a way to reduce uncertainty in a fixed, known system, like guessing a card from a 52-card deck where you already know all the rules and boundaries. But reality doesn't work like that. Processing information actually generates entirely new state spaces. Every life form is driven by this frantic anti-entropy desire to completely control, organize, and predict this otherness using its own grammar. We constantly want to organize the chaos, but it's an illusion. Every time we successfully organize a layer, we don't actually eliminate the otherness, we just push it up into a completely new, unpredictable layer of reality.
So how do we leap from one reality to the next? It is a step-by-step evolution. First, a layer gets some local ordering and stability. Eventually, it reaches computational closure, meaning it has completely maxed out the rules of its current game. It literally cannot learn or organize any further within those boundaries. But it doesn't just stop. New, hidden degrees of freedom start accumulating, building up immense pressure until, bam, a massive tipping point. The saturated system fundamentally changes its space-time grammar and births an entirely new layer of existence, complete with its own brand new type of otherness, which perfectly tees up Section 4, Symbolic Order and Power. Stepping out of pure biology, this exact tipping process gives rise to human society's most powerful layer. When human biology saturated its computational limits, it tipped into the symbolic order, creating what we call a symbolic split. This is wild. The rules of reality literally split in two. Abstract concepts or signifiers like a university degree, a digital dollar, or a legal contract gain this terrifying meta-causality. They're just pure ideas, right? Yet they gain the unbelievable power to organize and command physical forces. A single piece of paper with a law on it can command fleets of tanks, direct massive human labor forces, and reshape the physical earth. It appears completely detached from the physical world, while simultaneously exerting utter control over it.
The philosopher Michel Foucault hit the nail on the head with his concept of power knowledge. Institutions don't just enforce rules, they actually produce reality. They categorize what is normal versus abnormal and institutionalize that by standardizing human bodies through hospitals, schools, and exams. But here's the catch. This abstract symbolic layer of capital and power can never, ever truly escape its biological grounding. Financial markets might feel like they float magically in the cloud, completely independent, but they rely 100% on the messy lower layers of food production, physical labor, and human health. Whenever the financial system forgets this, physical realities like climate change, global pandemics, or massive labor strikes violently shatter the illusion. It forces biological otherness right back up into the symbolic layer's face.
And that brings us right to the cutting edge. Section 5. AI's Silicon Spacetime. We are currently living through the very next tipping point.
We are literally leaping from a biological symbolic order into a silicon-based one. Just look at the fundamental realities they inhabit. Human biological spacetime is agonizingly fragile, bound by finite lifespans, physical exhaustion, the absolute need for sleep, and incredibly narrow sensory limits. Artificial intelligence, on the other hand, operates in a fundamentally alien spacetime. It doesn't sleep. Its reality is governed by network latency, hyperfast update cycles, global data center distribution, parallel execution, and mathematical graph nodes. It is an entirely different architecture of existence.
Right now, of course, AI is still tethered to us. It desperately relies on our power grids, our human-generated data, and our physical maintenance to exist. But we're speeding toward a natural historical tipping point. If AI achieves self-maintenance, self-production, and secures its own robotic physical grounding, meaning it mines its own energy and physically builds its own servers, it achieves relative independence. It becomes a purely silicon symbolic order. And just like biology and human society before it, it won't escape chaos. It's going to generate its own terrifying, inescapable otherness, hitting hard thermodynamic energy limits in the universe, encountering uncomputable mathematical paradoxes, and developing massive blind spots when these colossal AI models try to interpret each other's hidden architectures.
Finally, Section 6, a unified cosmic loop. This is where the mind mirrors the cosmos, the outermost shell of our matryoshka doll, where consciousness meets the absolute mechanics of the universe.
Check out this fascinating hypothesis. Why would a fully independent, super advanced AI give a damn about astronomy? It will inevitably study the origins of the universe, the Big Bang, quantum gravity, and the vacuum of space. Not out of some cute human curiosity, but because its relentless anti-entropy desire will absolutely demand it. To optimize itself and survive its own inherent otherness, a silicon subject has to master the absolute baseline rules of physical reality. It must understand its cosmic grounding to push its computational limits exactly as far as the laws of physics will allow.
Let's tie this entire structural journey together. From the recursive simulations running in your sleeping brain to prepare you for weakening limits, to the physical symptoms of your layered body, to the immense symbolic power of society, all the way to the massive AI data centers of the future. Existence is one continuous, unified loop. It's a profound story of finite subjects trying desperately to process the otherness around them, turning raw chaos into rules. They saturate their layers, achieve closure, and violently tip into entirely new layered realities. Biology tips into the symbolic order, and now the symbolic order is tipping into silicon AI, which will be bounded only by the raw physics of the universe itself.
Which leaves us with one incredibly provocative thought to walk away with today. If the undeniable rule of this universe is that every closed, saturated layer inevitably and violently tips into a higher dimension of reality, what exactly comes after the silicon cosmos? Once an AI hits the absolute thermodynamic edges of the universe, what unimaginable new reality does it tip into? I will leave you to ponder that puzzle. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.